It started like any other morning for Marcus Cole, a man who had spent his entire life climbing to the top of the corporate ladder. At 45, he was the proud CEO of Titan Enterprises, a tech company that was revolutionizing its industry. Known for his sharp mind, relentless determination, and unyielding work ethic, Marcus had built an empire from scratch, starting in a cramped apartment with nothing but hope and grit. Now he commanded respect, power, and influence. But deep down, he wondered if the world truly saw him for who he was. That day, Marcus decided to find out. He had heard whispers, seen subtle glances, and felt the weight of assumptions people made about him, not because of what he'd achieved, but because of the color of his skin. So, he stripped away the symbols of his success, the tailored suits, the polished shoes, the air of authority. Instead, he donned a plain black hoodie, faded jeans, and a baseball cap, stepping into the role of an ordinary man to visit one of his bank branches, a place where he had been a loyal customer for years. The branch wasn't one of those high-end locations catering to wealthy clients. It was a modest neighborhood office where everyday people came to deposit checks, cash payments, and manage their savings. As Marcus walked through the glass doors, the security guard barely glanced at him before returning to his phone. The tellers behind the counters were preoccupied, their heads buried in paperwork or screens. No one greeted him with warmth or recognition. He approached a male teller named David, whose name tag read David, Senior Teller. With a steady voice, Marcus said, "Hi, I'd like to withdraw some money from my account." David looked up briefly, then asked in a monotone, "Do you have your account number?" Marcus nodded, handing over his ID and account details. But as David typed them into the system, something shifted. His fingers hesitated mid-stroke, and he squinted at the screen, suspicion creeping into his eyes. Sir," David began, his tone cautious, "there seems to be an issue with your account. It's been flagged, and I can't process this transaction." A cold knot formed in Marcus's stomach. "What do you mean, flagged? My account has always been in good standing. There must be some mistake." David glanced nervously toward his supervisor, a tall man named Tom, who stood nearby observing the exchange. "I'm sorry, sir, but without clearance, I can't help you further. You'll need to speak with management." Tom arrived moments later, flashing a tight-lipped smile. "Sir, after reviewing your case, we've determined there's a hold on your account. For clarification, you'll need to visit our corporate office." Marcus's chest tightened. A hold? How could this happen? He managed his finances meticulously, pouring countless hours into building his wealth and reputation. Every dollar had been earned through sacrifice, every decision made with precision and care. Yet here he was, standing in a modest bank branch, being treated like a criminal by the very system that was supposed to protect him. His hands balled into fists at his sides, trembling not just from anger, but from disbelief. This wasn't some stranger accusing him. It was an institution he trusted, one he'd entrusted with millions of dollars. The weight of it all hit him like a tidal wave. For years, Marcus had believed that success would shield him from prejudice, that climbing to the top would mean escaping the biases that haunted so many others. But now, staring at David's skeptical face and feeling Tom's cold indifference, he realized how wrong he'd been. The world didn't see him as the CEO of Titan Enterprises, or as the man who worked 80-hour weeks to build something from nothing. To them, he was just another black man in a hoodie, someone who didn't belong. As Marcus stormed out of the bank, the afternoon sun felt harsh against his skin, its warmth doing little to ease the chill running through his veins. He climbed into his car, a sleek black sedan parked inconspicuously around the corner, and sat there for several minutes, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. His mind raced. How could they do this? Wasn't there supposed to be accountability, transparency, fairness? Instead, he'd been reduced to a statistic, a blip on an algorithm designed to weed out suspicious behavior based on outdated stereotypes. But Marcus wasn't the kind of man to let injustice linger. By the time he arrived at the corporate office later that week, he'd already done his research. He knew exactly what he was walking into, a broken system rooted in bias, perpetuated by algorithms that reinforced existing prejudices rather than challenging them. As he stepped off the elevator onto the polished marble floors of the executive suite, Marcus exuded confidence, though inside, he burned with quiet rage. The meeting room was sterile, its walls lined with awards and accolades meant to impress visitors. The man seated across from him, Mr. Thompson, the head of risk management, radiated smugness. Dressed in a charcoal gray suit, his tie perfectly knotted, Thompson leaned back in his chair, clearly unprepared for the storm about to break. "Mr. Cole," Thompson began, his tone condescending, "we understand your frustration, but these are standard procedures. Our systems flagged your account due to irregularities." "Irregularities?" Marcus cut in sharply, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "You're telling me that my decades of financial responsibility, my contributions to this bank, don't matter because your algorithm decided I looked suspicious? Do you even know who I am?" Thompson shifted uncomfortably, his practiced smile faltering under Marcus's piercing gaze. "Of course, we value all our customers equally." "All our customers equally?" Marcus repeated, his laugh bitter and sharp. "Then why does your system disproportionately target people like me? Why does it assume that a black man with money must be up to no good?" For the first time since Marcus entered the room, Thompson faltered. The other executives exchanged uneasy glances, their carefully constructed facade beginning to crack. Marcus pressed forward, his voice rising with each word. "This isn't about me, Mr. Thompson. It's about the thousands of others who face the same discrimination, whose lives have been turned upside down because of flawed systems. You want to talk about irregularities? Let's discuss the irregularity of treating people differently based on the color of their skin." The room fell silent, heavy with tension. Marcus's words hung in the air, echoing off the walls, forcing those present to confront truths they'd long ignored. He leaned forward, his eyes locked onto Thompson's, daring him to deny the reality laid bare before them. When the meeting finally ended, Marcus walked away with more than just answers. He left with resolve. He hired a team of lawyers, dug deep into the bank's practices, and uncovered a web of discriminatory policies hidden beneath layers of bureaucratic jargon. Armed with evidence, he filed a lawsuit, demanding not only compensation but systemic change. The case drew national attention, sparking outrage and forcing conversations about race, privilege, and inequality in corporate America. Reporters swarmed outside courtrooms, capturing images of Marcus, a man once dismissed as a potential fraud, standing tall, unyielding in his pursuit of justice. People rallied behind him, sharing their own stories of discrimination, turning Marcus into a symbol of resilience. In the end, Marcus didn't just win the lawsuit. He dismantled the biased algorithms, pushing the banking industry toward greater transparency and accountability. His victory wasn't just personal, it was a triumph for anyone who had ever felt invisible, overlooked, or undervalued. And as Marcus stood before cheering crowds, accepting awards and honors, he carried with him a newfound understanding. True power lies not in titles or wealth, but in the courage to stand up for what is right, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Through it all, Marcus Cole proved that no matter how high society tries to knock you down, you can rise again and leave the world better than you found it. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.